Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle 101 webinar series. Today we'll be discussing Untangle's NG Firewall platform and what benefits and features you might be missing out on if you haven't upgraded to version 13 yet. My name is Shannon Bonfiglio. I'm part of the product marketing team here at Untangle, and I'll be your host today. I also have with us our sales engineer, Chad McNaughton, who will be taking us through the presentation and also the demonstration today. Just a few housekeeping rules before I pass it over to Chad. If you do select to use a phone, you will need to dial in and use the access code provided. You can use your computer audio as well. Just make sure you select the right preference on the right-hand side. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch or share this recording with anyone you wish at a later time. And of course, as always, we'll be answering questions throughout the presentation. So please just submit those questions through our Q&A box on the right-hand side. We have a few staff members on hand to help answer those questions. And if we don't get to your question, or if you have a very specific question in regards to your network or setup, please email us at support@untangle.com or sales@untangle.com, and we'll be happy to help. And with that, I will pass it over to Chad.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, I got a little happy on the slides there. Sorry, everybody. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I see some new faces, some old faces. Thanks, everyone, for hopping on. As Shannon said, this is an Untangle 101 series, so we won't be diving into deep technical talks. We won't jump down many rabbit holes for the applications, things like that. If you are a longtime daily Untangle admin, this may not be the webinar for you unless you're still running something like Untangle version 9, 9.4, or version 10. As a part of our 101 series, we're intending these for a more general audience. So like I said, we're not diving into super technical aspects. It's an overview on getting upgraded. So as always, if there are webinar topics you guys would like to see, for 101 Tech Talks, by all means, shoot us an email and let us know. With that, I should introduce Untangle if you are not familiar with it. So Untangle is a comprehensive UTM, Unified Threat Management device for small and medium-sized businesses. And as you can see, it's quick, easy to deploy and manage. We do a lot of that through the cloud, a lot of ways to deploy Untangle that we'll get into as well. It is a low-cost subscription-based software solution for SMBs, small offices, home offices, things like that. And it can save a lot of money by leveraging existing hardware. Untangle's interesting in this industry because we don't force you to buy a piece of hardware from us. You can use our hardware, you can use your hardware, you can use our hardware specs to build your own hardware. You can also use virtual machines or clouds, which we can mention later. We do have multiple channels of support from our widgets on the actual UI in the server. Also our email, phone, all that kind of stuff, forums, wiki. And we do provide proactive actionable alerts notifications. These are created on the box locally and also now in our cloud centralized management called Command Center, which I think is a huge, huge plus, being able to create alerts in the cloud. And we do try to give you seamless transparency. Depending on how Untangle's installed, we'll either be a transparent bridge or a router. So if we, for example, install into transparent bridge mode, nobody really knows that we're on the network suddenly. Nobody's gateways change, anything like that. So this is going to let you protect and control your network, all your endpoint devices, and we're going to try to help you do it with a little bit of savings and deployment options. So let's talk about some Untangle products here. As we jump in, you'll see the Untangle NG Firewall, and that is our basic platform onto which our paid applications are installed. So we do offer a free package. That's the Untangle NG Firewall platform. And then from there, you can subscribe to a complete package. That's all of our applications and support, or you can buy individual applications. And we also do offer live custom reporting, giving you a huge, huge peek into your network traffic, depending on the apps that are installed, obviously. When we're doing things like SSL inspection, we're decrypting HTTPS. The reports are pretty amazing. We can get as deep as you want, and we've customized a lot of the reports and the creation engines, new reports, things like that here for version 13.2. Some of the Untangle feature set has changed a little bit if you're still on version 9, version 10, something like that. This is largely intact, though, for previous versions. There have been some crucial updates, and we'll touch on those later. Other than some new apps, though, the features listed here have not changed all that much. We still give you all these great options to filter and handle your traffic shaping under the performance options there. And then we also still give you lots of different flavors of VPN, for example. We've created a lot new options in our IPsec VPN for version 13.2. So how do you deploy Untangle? If you're new to Untangle, this is a big question because we have a lot of options. Untangle technically is a hybrid cloud product. We are cloud managed, but we can be an on-premise gateway and still connect to that cloud intelligence through our Scout IQ and our command center. The interesting thing about Untangle's software and our content filtering, packet inspection, is that we use virtual pipelining. So instead of this proxy chaining different apps, which gets inefficient, the traffic's inspected all at once by all of the apps simultaneously. And we also try to give you a little bit lighter, hardware footprint. It can be run on smaller, cheaper hardware if it's yours or ours. We'll talk about some new fun boxes we're selling here for a while. The cool thing about Untangle, I think, is that we give you these options, and you can take any of them and run, or you can just get a device from us, if it's the easier thing for you. But it always comes down to things like familiarity and budget and stuff like that. If you have a server sitting in your closet that'll host Untangle, by all means, give that one a shot. Let's talk about Scout IQ for just a second, since I mentioned it. Scout IQ is our cloud-based threat intelligence platform. So it's included at no extra cost with our virus blocker apps. And with Scout IQ, Untangle Labs is actually providing aggregated statistics on a lot of different dimensions associated with malware distribution. So this includes geo distribution with source and origin information, different transmission protocols, historical incidents, and a lot more. As you can see, what it does technically is it's aggregating anonymous telemetry data from Untangles around the world. So the first Untangle box that sees either an unfamiliar piece of malware or a piece of malware with an unfamiliar exploit tied to it, etc. It sends all that information to Scout IQ with the telemetry data, which is crucial for that kind of thing. For the most part, these malware distribution points tend to only stay up for a day or two. So if you don't get that information there right off the bat, it can be a hard thing to get. So it's identifying threats that we see in the wild. And as I said, this is actually included in both. This is actually included in both those apps at no additional cost. The other aspect of our cloud infrastructure that I mentioned is Command Center. So this is our cloud-based centralized management for the NG Firewall platform. It's really handy. If you've got an NG box running our complete version and either on 13.0 or up, it'll be eligible for Command Center full management. So that lets you manage multi-site deployments. You don't need additional hardware to have kind of a management console. It's all available in the cloud now. You just sign into untangle.com, and that's where your account and all your cloud functions live. So you can manage licensing, you can update software, you can check your configuration backups, all kinds of things like that. We can also clone, edit, and push policies across your entire fleet here, which is really, really handy. So things like that are a big selling point for Command Center, I think, and a big reason to get upgraded so your device is eligible for this remote management. And as you can see, we're still trying to reduce overhead and costs and things like that. This is all associated in the cloud through our cloud connection options within the Untangle setup wizard. So this is never done by default. We do not default you to connect to our cloud. We don't assume things like that. It's all done through our setup wizard when you install Untangle. So that's an option that you have from the beginning, whether or not you want to connect to our cloud. It is beneficial, I think, because for one, we don't care about your data. We're not storing data, seeing your data coming across. What we're doing is giving you that good virus information on the telemetry data, and we're also making your box available in your account for centralized management. So it's a win-win, I think. So some of the key differentiators for Untangle, if you're at all familiar with Untangle, most of this hasn't changed. We are built specifically for SMB deployments, though. We do offer enterprise level security, at SMB prices and consumer level simplicity. I think that's a very important thing in this industry. If you don't know this, if you're new to Untangle, Untangle is a small business. There are less than 40 employees here, I believe. That's growing pretty fast, actually. We're hiring every day, every week. But we are a small business that supports small businesses, and a lot of our competitors haven't been small businesses for a long time, I feel like. So that's a difference to me, you know, that we're small and we're accessible and we're actually really flexible. So if you need something from your rep or from a sales engineer, you can call me and I'll answer and we'll talk. One of the other things that Untangle does well, I think, is we are a browser-based UI, basically on a server or a virtual machine. So even on a physical piece of hardware, Untangle will load a virtual machine into Chromium, and that's what you're actually using as the UI. So it is browser-based, and it's very responsive. The user interface is really, really fast now. And we do have industry-leading, I think, advanced reporting on the server itself, as well as some of those reports available in the cloud. The intelligent default settings are basically tuned to real world cases. So as I said, as you go through our setup wizard, if you just hit recommended apps, recommended settings, things like that, that's going to be tuned to things we see in the wild. The wizard-based config for a lot of the apps is handy too, because you can choose preset configuration templates like school or nonprofit or home, things like that. We also offer policy management with global top-down approach, as opposed to a complex kind of bottom-up list where you have to worry which policy everyone's going through. With Untangle, it's a really simple thing through Policy Manager. If you've never used Policy Manager, I think you're probably missing out on a lot of kind of our bread and butter, honestly, is separating traffic and groups and people and then giving them different filtering, different traffic shaping, all of that stuff. We do have some very comprehensive bandwidth shaping capabilities, like I just mentioned. So we can assign quotas and manage those, you know, basically send folks to the penalty box when they violate the quota. They go over there and they have no bandwidth and they feel shame for 2 minutes and then they come back. So we can do things like that. We can throttle mobile apps, set tags on lots of different hosts and devices. There are some really cool, fun toys starting in Untangle 13.0, such as those tags that are, I think, becoming kind of crucial in the solution overall. And we do offer automatic seamless upgrades, so the product can't always be up to date. For those of you still running something like 9.4, there is obviously not a direct upgrade path, so that's a reinstall. But we'll go over some of the reasons to do that here in a minute. I think keeping it on automatic updates is very handy because we never force a reboot unless there's a big update with a kernel update. So in general, you know, you don't need to reboot your Untangle server. I would honestly ask you not to, so we can keep all that good logging. So we try to be very flexible and cost competitive, as I mentioned. So it's a software-based solution, and it can be deployed, like I said, on your hardware, ours, a virtual machine, even in the cloud now in AWS or Azure. It is a what's called freemium software because you download a free package from us on untangle.com, and that gives you a trial to our complete package for 14 days. So you'll get every paid app we offer, including live support. I can't overemphasize how crucial that is for testing and things like that. If you get Untangle installed and you're struggling, you've got an active trial, you can pick up the phone and get one of our support techs on the line. Our support team's all out here in our Colorado office, so they're in mountain time. We don't do tiered support, outsourced support, any of that kind of stuff. Any of them is very qualified as soon as they pick up the phone to help you out. And then, like I said, you know, the cloud-based central management and on-box reports are included. No additional hardware is required for that. Command Center will actually give you your first 5 servers that are eligible for free. And then after that, there's a bit of a little pricing structure that we could talk about with yours. So what are some of the major features that we've added since going through version 9 and updating to 10? Well, it's been a while. We're looking at a couple of years of features here, but you can see, you know, I mean, even go back to version 10, we've got a new kernel. We're on Linux Debian and Jessie there. So if you're on 9, you know, that's even a kernel revision that you're missing. For version 11, we added the ability to see and filter by MAC addresses. We added new applications. We added XAuth support. We added more license management and an intrusion prevention app. And then, you know, version 12 and 13, we went even more deep into that with geolocation, UPnP. We broke out HTTPS inspector and do SSL inspector because it sees everything on port 443 now. Directory connectors added, web monitor was added, which is our free HTTP monitor. And some of the bigger changes, I think, for version 13 are obviously reducing buffer bloat with a new QoS algorithm is handy just to reduce latency between your networking gear. But that second one there, user tracking tags and triggers, was a huge update and change for us. I think for folks that are a small environment and don't have something like a domain controller, triggers and tags can be very handy, because you can actually set up a tag as, if you wanted it to be a username, you could, and you could tag a MAC address with that username. So if you weren't using local directory from us or something like Active Directory or Radius for authentication, we can still see who they are and tag them. They're not necessarily authenticating, but we can set up triggers to automate a lot of different tags too. So if someone gets on the network and they're not doing anything wrong, for example, for an hour, then suddenly they open up the BitTorrent app on their cell phone or their tablet, we can have a trigger that actually is set up to the conditions to tag that device or that user as a BitTorrent user, or whatever you want to type into the tag. It's a really cool system that I can show you a little bit. And there's a really good article on our wiki, and there's a little video on our YouTube channel about tags and triggers as well. And some new apps actually popped up here in version 13 too. Tunnel VPN is one of the handiest things we've pulled out of our pocket in a while. It's a free app. It can, to me, it sort of lives between OpenVPN and IPsec VPN, but it can stand up site-to-site tunnels. And we can even use it to assist in things like an SD-WAN setup, where all these sites have to come back through a central WAN in the cloud, and we can license them all in one box and throw everything through Tunnel VPN up into that one central site remotely. So it's a really handy app, and even in a home situation, you can set up rules in there to say, I want these certain devices to always come out of VPN tunnel rather than my regular connection. And I actually have that used at my house, where I tend to have my PlayStation actually run out of that VPN tunnel. I have that IP set up to always go out of VPN tunnel because it's tied to financial things, and it's heavy traffic. So I just kind of keep it separate. And that's an interesting thing you can do with the rules. So that's Tunnel VPN. We've also instituted a ton of VPN updates just about a week or two ago. We're on version 13.2 now, which is what we'll see in just a second. And with Tunnel VPN, the options are really open, but we also included a lot of new options for IPsec, like new kernel hooks to restart a tunnel that goes down. We actually have events and logging in those things now instead of just reports. So there's some really handy updates to pretty much every VPN app we have. OpenVPN, for example, has two-factor authentication now, which has been a big request, and we were able to implement. So I've talked a little bit about some of the reasons. The main reasons you should upgrade and get on our current version 13, I think number one is support. We only support, our current 2 revisions. If you're on 9.4, 10, 11, even 12, those are no longer supported versions of Untangle, and you'll be, stuck with things like asking the forums for help and looking at the wiki for articles and basically self-help. We can do a lot more when you get on a supported version of the software. So I would highly recommend that. And then some of the new features and applications I just mentioned, obviously you're seeing some of those here. Our new dashboard is one of the handiest things we've ever created, I think. It's very dynamic, the interface itself and the reporting. And then also, like I said, command center access is becoming kind of huge. If you're looking for an easy way to manage your device, we can let you just remote in, boom, to the gateway IP or however you want. But Command Center is going to have them all right there. You'll get aggregated reporting, and you can remote in from Command Center too with one-click access through our SSL proxy. So I think that's a lot of really good reasons. Some of the ones that aren't mentioned here are things like just kind of some of the faceless we've given it, but also I think things like NetFlow support. We have OAuth authentication now for like Facebook and Google accounts. We get OAuth tokens. So we'll take a look at some of those things. But like I said, the reasons to upgrade from something like version 9, version 10 are almost endless. To me, they start with support and security updates, because version 9, something like WebFilter Lite, if those are things you're still running on your network and using them at the gateway, I feel like those are becoming vulnerabilities because they've missed so many updates and we're so many kernels ahead. I would start to worry about that in 2018. So we're going to jump out of my slide deck real quick right here and jump over to the Untangle demo server. So this is demo.untangle.com. You can always jump on here. It's live. There's no password. So this is version 13.2 of Untangle, as you can see. And this is actually hosted in the Amazon cloud. So a couple of new options that we can go through right here on the dashboard include things like our new policy overview widget. You know, if you have a lot of policies on the device, you can actually have a little widget right here on the dashboard that shows you those policies and the sessions coming through them and the apps installed, where they're inheriting from. That's one of my favorite additions. We also have our geolocation map here, if you can see that I'm hovering over, showing different country codes for sessions that generate to and from my device. So if you're curious about one of these sessions, you can actually click on this dot and it will take you to a session viewer narrowed down by that country where you can see all that information. So this is a really handy tool. You may notice that I'm also navigating around my dashboard with the back buttons on my mouse. So we also got rid of modal windows starting version 13. We no longer do you know, the old mistake where you hit the back button and it pops you out of the virtual machine, which I used to do 10 times a webinar with my little fancy Apple mouse. So I love that addition. Thank you, development team, because now we can actually use URLs. So if you're 10 windows deep and you happen to have your dashboard copied, you can still just jump back to that URL like you want because it's valid. This is a really, really handy support tool for our techs here, because if they need it, they can say, punch in your gateway IP into this link and tell me what you see on that page. You know, is this box checked? Is this rule enabled, etc. So that's a really handy tool for support. These widgets can now also be completely customized with their sizing. This is a new handy thing that we've come up with for version 13.2. So if I want this to be a smaller widget or a bigger widget, I can change the size right here. And we can still download an image from the widget if a boss or a manager or somebody like that who's not an admin wants to see a quick peek at a graph. We can just download that and email it to them. But we can also just still open this in our reports viewer from right here. So our dashboard remains, I think, the most dynamic one in our industry. I really can't find another one like this that lets you do all this. If I don't like these widgets, again, I can come over here and turn these off. For example, maybe I have usernames leveraged from Active Directory or Radius or something like that. I won't want to look at host names usage because those are going to be IPs. So I'll delete that one, and I will want to come add username widgets because I have usernames leveraged. This little search bar is one of the best things we've put in Untangle since I've worked here. We do have about 400 reports built in by default. So being able to come in here and just punch in a couple of letters and have it be that dynamic. I'm just looking for the top sites visited by, yeah, see, there they are. So that's a handy thing. And then you just grab this thing and you can add it to your dashboard right here. Once it's added, if I want to stare at it all day, I can drag it up to the top. And that way I'm just have to scroll once. There it is. I can also now change the time frame of these widgets. So this is a new thing for version 13.2. They default to 1 hour, but maybe I want it to be an entire workday. I can just change that to 8 hours. And then these graphs will redraw themselves here row by row as we sit and watch. There they go. So our reports got a nice little facelift here for version 13.2. Everything's just smoother and faster. We can still retain up to a year of reporting data, which is excessive and crazy, and you can if you need to. Anything over a month or so, we can still offload with syslog. We've enabled a lot more syslog events that you can create now, and we can also upload reports to Google Drive if you'd rather do that. So as you can see, we can still jump into the report right here from that little widget. The reports viewer got a nice little facelift as well. This button here allows you to export all reports now into one big JSON file. We can still do full report customization if we like. Come over here to settings and it'll let you fully customize your report. Or a new option in version 13.2 that we've been asked about a lot, we were finally able to implement a create new report button. So this is a new blank report from scratch. So you just come down here and choose a category, throw in your conditions and hit create new. Then that's a report that lives in Untangle forever. You can throw it on your dashboard. You can set up alerts based on it, whatever you need to do. So that's basically the dashboard and the reports. There's a lot of new features that I think you may not even look for right off the bat. And one of them would be, like I said, the support for NetFlow. So I just came to config network advanced, and then you just click NetFlow right here. And we just need the host, the port you're using, and the version of NetFlow. This is, for me in pre-sales, this has been a request I've gotten a lot for the last few months. And that's kind of what Untangle version 13.2 became. We have a really, really cool, stable version of our software. And we're at the point now where we're able to do the cool things we want and the things our users have been asking for. So a lot of user feature requests were implemented for version 13.2 here. And I think some of them are awesome. One of them that I mentioned was two-factor authentication for OpenVPN. That's something that's been asked about a lot. over the last couple of years, last few months for sure. And we were actually able to implement that. So if we wanted to see what that looked like, it would just be under OpenVPN here. If we enabled OpenVPN server, we can just come down here and enable username password authentication. This is your second factor for authentication on OpenVPN because the first factor is the certificate. So if you make them also log in through OpenVPN, then we have their username, however it's connected here. I think that's a really handy thing. More and more folks are working remotely these days. So we do have lots of different flavors of VPN, like I mentioned, and OpenVPN has actually just been completely opened up and customizable for full customizing two-factor authentication. Thank you to our user Webfool who helped out with a lot of that coding and got OpenVPN to where we've been wanting it for a while. So that's a fun new feature that's been a long time coming. I did mention tunnel VPN a couple of times. So this is what it actually looks like. If we wanted to, we could come in here and, for example, create a VPN tunnel, name it whatever we want. If we're using a VPN service, we have a few of those built in here. If you're using Untangle OpenVPN, you would actually use that here. So we would set Untangle up as our OpenVPN server, and then we would download a remote client and we could use that in Tunnel VPN to set up a VPN tunnel. After that's done, you can actually create rules over here that say, I only want anyone being tagged as BitTorrent usage to come over a tunnel. And it's saying any available tunnel. Or I could do it normally. So this is a fun tool. Like I said, I use this at home and it just keeps that one box that is on all the time and doing heavy downloads and stuff just a little bit separate, a little bit more private, things like that. We also do offer OAuth 2 now, like I said, so we can do some basically social networking authentication. If we come over here and configure Google Drive under Directory Connector, this is where we set all that up. The handy way to leverage that within our system is through a captive portal. So the use case for this is, I'm a coffee shop and people come in and use the Wi-Fi. I don't want them to just use it and leave. I want to be able to send them promotions and things like that, some social marketing. So we can now have them sign in with their Facebook account, for example, before they get on your Wi-Fi, or their Microsoft, Office 365 account, or Google. So that's a handy thing because you get that information. And if that's something you require on your network, for example, like a coffee shop, a little book shop, something like that, we can get a little bit of social information out from OAuth 2, which is handy. I believe some of the bigger updates that some people probably may not know about are a little bit kind of on the back end. And I mentioned Scout IQ a lot, and I want to show you guys where it lives. So our two virus blockers here, which can be and should be installed simultaneously if you have them both. I always run them both. They're pretty different. Within our virus blocker options on the Advanced tab, we're actually able to go in and say, I do want you to connect to the Untangle Cloud Scan for Scout IQ or not. And I mentioned this is asked of you when you set Untangle up. It's never assumed that you want to connect to our cloud. So within Virus Blocker Lite, we connect to Scout IQ, and within Virus Blocker Full, the paid version, we connect to Scout IQ, and then we also connect to the Bitdefender cloud. The full version here installs Bitdefender. Mine was updated here just about 2 hours ago. So it does a couple updates a day now. And this is one of those big things that I think should be serious cause for upgrading. These data sets and these options are pretty advanced now. We're doing some really, really cool stuff with the new virus blocking and our Scout IQ. If you'd like to read more about that, you can go to untangle.com and click on Cloud, and there's a little Scout IQ and an intelligence map section right there. The intelligence map, cyber intelligence, will actually show you real-time telemetry data being shared from Untangles around the world in our cloud. So I feel like these are really important for updating. Getting upgraded to version 13 will give you for one, the option to install Web Monitor if that's all you need. Web Filter Lite, if that's what you're using still to block the internet, has become kind of a big hole. Web Filter Lite only sees HTTP, and as we stand right now, 70% of the entire internet is encrypted with HTTPS. So that's obviously a problem for filtering the web. It's a great thing for internet consumers because things are more secure, things are safer. But for folks like us who step in and filter the web, that makes things more complicated. So we have to use things like SSL Inspector. And we mentioned in the changes, if you're still back on 9 or 10, you'll still see something called HTTPS Inspector. and that will catch HTTPS, but it's not going to see any other secure protocols coming across port 443 like SSL Inspector will. The rules here are very absolute. They're inspect or ignore rules, and whether you're doing a condition that's fairly open or very tight, we can restrict these conditions to only see the secure sockets layer. So that's how it's commonly used. This is a lot more complete than just using HTTPS. We also offer a few HTTPS options still in our web filter. This is another great reason to get updated, just to get the updated URL categories list. Our categories database, I think, is around pushing 600 million URLs now. And we've added a lot of great things, including this rules tab here for Untangle 13 that lets us come in and be a little bit granular within a policy. So the policy manager is obviously, like I said, part of our bread and butter. It's one of our all-stars, but within a policy, we could come in and say, well, just this one user needs access to just this one URL within this policy when they're using this one address. So this user at this device needs access to this one website. No one else on the policy gets it. We can do that now within a policy right here in Web Filter. So while we could go make a separate policy for that person and put it above their group policy so it catches first, we don't have to. You can see we can also leverage tags in here. You know, maybe, like I said earlier, you tag people who are using BitTorrent. Maybe the tag is BitTorrent user, and then from there, they actually have some actions taken against them because they're a BitTorrent user. So we could, you know, block or pass certain apps, certain websites for just that person within a policy. So keep that in mind. You know, the policy creation is very powerful, and it's a very strong tool, I think, within the Untangle solution. But it's a little easier now within Web Filter to get some granularity within a policy. For example, if I don't want to go change all the settings for my teachers because one teacher needs those rules, I can come out here and say, well, just this one teacher needs that rule within their Web Filter. So I can come say, okay, so teacher jsmith2 needs access to you know, facebook.com. Then no other teachers get access. So it's a really handy thing. We can still flag that traffic so we get a report on it. But things like that are I think, maybe little updates that we don't necessarily brag about a lot, but are really, really cool and handy. Some of the other things are obviously data sets, you know, things like the virus and spam sets. Those have updated. Bandwidth control has updated functionality and a better setup wizard. And then I mentioned also intrusion prevention you see down at the bottom, and things like reports. Our reports module has made some huge changes, especially since going back to version 9. We have the ability now to create email template reports. So I mentioned earlier, we can download a chart to shoot over to a boss, an HR manager, whoever, but we can also create them as a reports user if we want to. We could create them a report template that only shows them a piece of information or two, and then we can send them an email report summary or an alert, and we choose their template right here. We just throw in their email address after we've created them a template, which is a very simple thing. They only want a couple of pieces of information, so I'm going to subtract most of this. If they want it daily or weekly or monthly, we can do that. If they want to reduce the graphics so it's a little more friendly for their mobile device, we can do that as well. If, though, this person doesn't want to sit and wait on their summary report every day, we can also grant them online access right here, which just lets them log on whenever they want, get a quick little HTML report, you know, just a quick glimpse into what they're looking for on their template. So that, I think, is a big dose, obviously, of changes and things like that. We do have links to our change logs on Untangle's wiki, which is wiki.untangle.com. There's a change logs link right there on the main page. Like I said, if you're still running version 9, version 10, version 11, version 12, those are all unsupported versions of our software now. And we are unfortunately not able to help you a whole lot. So some of those do have direct upgrade past the version 13. Like I said, version 9 won't because of the kernel changes and all that. That's going to be more or less a reinstall. If you are looking into doing that, though, we do have some services. We can actually help you convert from the version 9 over. And maybe you're looking for a new appliance, something like that. We can help with things like that. So as Untangle has always done, we offer a line of appliances, our U series and M series there on the left, but we actually unveiled for a limited time this new X series on the right. And you know, maybe I'm a little biased, but these things are awesome. I'm currently saving up for a U50XW, waiting for that one, come back. They're really cool. I think they have a lot better performance than our two smaller boxes, the 25 and the 50, that compare on the U side. The U25 and the U50 are very nice little devices, but the X series actually has better performance and a better price point. And if you're looking for a wireless model, as you can see on the right, the 25XW and the 50XW actually have dual radio Wi-Fi. So it's a little bit better Wi-Fi than the U version. And they're awesome hardware. You know, it's a really cool little platform. Like I said, cheaper, a little bit better performance. If you're looking at the U25 or U50, maybe look at the 25X, the 25XW, because they're really, really cool. And you might be able to save a little money and you know, get a little bit better hardware. If you are new to Untangle, you know, and this webinar is one of the first ones for you, I do like to mention that Untangle is no longer new. We're not a startup anymore or anything like that. We've been around for about 15 years now, actually. So we are getting some recognition in the community. We're getting some awards, things like that. And you can see, you know, we won a Cody Award last year. We won a Gold Global Excellence Award from the InfoSec Products Guide. Best in Biz for customer service and technical support is my favorite award that we have ever won, and we've got one the last couple of years. I'll personally put our support team up against anybody in this industry. They're awesome. They average about a 96-97% satisfaction rate. They answer the phone in under 30 seconds, and there's 5 of them, you know, so they do a really, really good job. That's why we win that award. And as you can see, we are very active on things like spiceworks.com. I'm our brand rep on Spiceworks. I'm always on there answering questions. If you have any questions about Untangle and you're active on Spiceworks, just mention Untangle and it'll ping me and I'll be able to hop on and answer your question. If you don't, want to get in touch with us through support or through pre-sales, anything like that, I'm very active on Spiceworks too. And you may see me just posting a dumb meme or something. Feel free to say hi. Our community forums are actually really, really active too. This is a Linux server and we're very active in the Linux community. That being said, the forums are not typical user forums. You will not get made fun of. You're not going to get ragged on. You're going to get help. We have some really, really, really savvy users. I mentioned, a couple of our users have contributed code. Webfool helped us out with the OpenVPN stuff. But a lot of the forum questions are answered by the founder, CPO of our company, and the director of QA. So the engineering guys hang out on the forums a lot. They're the ones who write the wiki. So those are actually really, really good resources. It's not some void where we send you off, to fend for yourself. You'll get a lot of really good answers and good help on the forums. And as well, on our site, untangle.com, if you click on resources, there's case studies, customer quotes here. We are getting big in a lot of different specific markets, the K-12, the nonprofit, government markets, things like that. But we still focus on the small businesses too. If there's a little insurance office where they have, 2 agents and 2 employees and 5 computers total, we can still help, and we still want that business. We're not a huge company who overlooks things like that. We're a small business too. So clients like that, environments like that, this is a great fit for them, especially with that new X line of hardware to get in just a little bit cheaper on the hardware side even. But if you want, you can go to our website, untangle.com, see a lot more case studies, a lot more testimonials, things like this. Shannon, do we have any questions out there that haven't gotten answered that we can maybe address?
Yeah, there was a question about, how they can get started, where they can download, the software. So maybe you can go to the website really quick and just show how easy it is to get the information from our website.
We can do that right quick. So on untangle.com, there's a little download link right here. So I mentioned earlier being able to trial Untangle, and this is how you can do that. This is super handy, depending on if you have a piece of hardware, a virtual machine, a cloud deployment. We have a lot of options here. So you can download our firmware, our OVA that's built for VMware, or either our 64-32-bit installers. Depending on how you want to install, if you're installing into, say, a VM that's not VMware, you would want to grab that ISO. You can throw that in Hyper-V into other ones. VMware is the only one we support. That's why the OVA is built for it. But the ISO will work in a lot of virtual machines. So if you have spare hardware, anything like that, throw Untangle on it. You can put us in line in transparent bridge mode without changing anyone's gateway, impacting any traffic, and actually let us see real traffic and kind of do some sniffing before you really spend any money. The important thing I mentioned about the trial, it does give you all of our apps, but it also gives you live support. So for that entire trial period, that 14 days, you've got access to our support team. And obviously me too, you know, I'm a pre-sales engineer, so there's a lot of us here to help. But the trial can be crucial. You know, if you're not sure if Untangle is going to do what you want and you have something to throw it on, by all means, get it installed and start playing around.
Great, thanks, Chad. And then while you're on the website, you want to show where people can get pricing. There's some pricing questions.
Sure. That is another thing I think that sets us apart a little bit in this space. We're pretty transparent. You know, all of our tech specs are online. A lot of these prices are online. So if you come here to the Buy tab, untangle.com/buy, this is our product configurator. You can come through here and put your own package together, all this fun stuff if you like. This is where we do our license bands. You can see the nonprofit public sector discounts. If you want, you can create your own package. Like I said, this is a free platform that we install paid apps on top of, whether it's a complete package or, you know, one or two of these apps. That's kind of up to you. But as you can see, if I start putting it together a huge package here, that's going to be, oh, it's telling me I should switch to complete. So the configurator is kind of dynamic as well, but you can set up your own pricing. If you click add to cart here, you can also set up your own quotes. There's a print as quote button within the cart if you need to generate a sales quote. And that goes right to our sales team who will reach out.
Great, thanks, Chad. There was a question about the upgrade to 13.2, when that will come out.
Yeah, sure. We do roll those out in stages. Like I said, we have 5 support techs. There's about 50,000 installs worldwide. So if your UID pool hasn't hit the upgrade yet, it won't be available to you. If you would like to get it early, you can email our support team at support@untangle.com and shoot us any UID that you like added to version 13.2. We'll add you to the early upgrade list. Then the next time you check for the upgrade, it'll be available for you.
Great, thanks, Chad. I think that's about all the questions we have right now. If you want to go back to the slides really quick. Thank you. So we have a couple programs, special pricing programs for you. If you're looking at Untangle or if you're a current user of Untangle, if you have a competitor's product or, you know, and are looking for a new solution that, you know, Untangle might be able to help, we have a security upgrade program. So basically, you can trade in your competitor's product, or if you have a existing Untangle product that may be older and you want to upgrade that to either a new license or appliance, we offer some discounts for that. So that's something you can definitely take advantage of. Also, we know that tons of you use us at home, which we love. We love our home users. But if you want to bring us to work, because, you know, Untangle's awesome and can help you at work too, we have a you know, a program for that as well, where you can get some discounts if you use Untangle at home and bring it to work. So you can call our sales team or email our sales team, and they'll be able to price you out and get you the best deal for you. Let's see if there's any questions that came in. I think that's about it. Let's see, as Chad said, we have a bunch of resources that he mentioned, the forums. This webinar is being recorded, so it'll be posted on the Untangle YouTube channel. So you will get an email tomorrow morning with a link to that, so you'll be able to watch this at a later time or share it with anyone you wish. We have our wiki, which is our technical documentation that Chad mentioned. Everything's on our website. So if for some reason you can't find what you're looking for or can't get a question you need answered, we're here for you. support@untangle.com or sales@untangle.com. Let us help you out, whether you have a specific technical question or a sales question. We're here to help. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, folks.